And we're live on Love and Money Secrets TV. And today we have with us Aaron Crabb, who is an active military Navy officer. He's here to share with us today his story of transformation and what things were plaguing him before he started on the stem cell activation patches, the things that he tried that didn't resolve the issues that he had, and what he's experiencing now. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us here today and your willingness to share your story of before and after.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So Aaron, how long ago did you, so let's start with, first of all, before we dive in deep into the stem cell activation patches, how long ago did you start in the military?
This month actually is 17 years for me.
Oh, wow. 17 years. So you're definitely a career military man. So 17 years ago. And so about when would you say you started to have some sort of conditions in your body that you started needing outside assistance and influence?
Yeah, good question. So I've been in the Navy for 17 years and I've been flying in helicopters for the last 10 years. And I would say about 4 years into flying, that's when I started to notice some agitation and the onset of back pain.
Okay, so do you know what the actual cause of the back pain was? Because you said in the last 4 years you noticed some issues with back pain.
Right. So from today, and then you go back 10 years is when I began the job flying in helicopters, and with that comes whole body vibrations and lengthy long flights that are 4 hours plus, and then for sitting for that length of time, that does agitate and compounds, especially when you do it as often as I do.
Yeah, so I remember when I first heard you mention that, I thought, wow, it's something that, since obviously I'm not in planes all the time and I'm not in in helicopters specifically, but it does make sense that, that constant vibration, which is actually not a little vibration, it's actually a bigger vibration because the jets and the engines create that vibration. And we know from other things around us in our environment, any kind of mechanical device, if you have enough vibration a long enough period of time, it starts to wear and tear on those things where, depending on what device it is that you're, like the spokes on a bike wheel, the gears, after a certain amount of time, they start to wear out and then the chain doesn't catch because it's not as sharp. And then you have that failure. And so now it's your body, you look at all the delicate structures inside your body. If you think of your spine, all those discs, the nerves, that vibration is wearing on those discs day after day. How many hours a day would you say you were flying?
So it can range anywhere between 2 hours to 5 hours.
Wow. So you're doing at least 10 to 20 hours of flight time, maybe sometimes more per week for years on end.
Right. It can add up very quickly. And of course, that has to do with the different tours of duty, because sometimes we work on we have short time and then we have sea time. So if you have short time, then sometimes the flying isn't as much as when you're out to sea, and then the flying is a lot more. So that just comes with that portion of the job.
Wow.
But
So when you first started noticing symptoms of backache, you had lower back pain. Was that your first symptom?
right, it was the mid to lower back, and then of course it wasn't debilitating. It was just, I would say, a scale to where it's uncomfortable, and I know it's there.
Yeah. And of course, like most things, when left unattended and untreated, it gets worse rather than better. It doesn't go away on its own. So what course of action, what things were you able to do that helped or maybe didn't help along the way? And did you seek medical advice from maybe the military doctors?
But yes, of course, and so I'm very kind of holistically minded and trying to do things to treat the root of this problem instead of the symptom. And so I was working on stretching and seeing a chiropractor and physical therapy and trying to address it that way. And of course, it was helpful for a moment, but then of course it came back, and it was kind of symptom relief, but not root relief. And that's that's what was going on prior to the patching.
Okay, wow. And so let's fast forward to when you started, when you became aware of the patches. How did the stem cell activation patches even get on your radar?
Hmm. The gentleman from church that we go to, Brent Jocelyn, he shared it with me, and was knew me and my wife's mindset that we wanted to do things naturally, trying to treat the root instead of a symptom, and said, "Hey, I got this thing that activates stem cells naturally. You want to check it out?" So we looked through it, did our studying and research and things, and I decided, you know what, the only thing I have to lose is back pain and bad health. So I decided to give it a go and see if it would do anything. And then about a month and a half to 2 months in was when I noticed the back pain decreasing. And now this is almost 4 months that I've been on the patch, and now I fly in a helicopter back pain free.
So, wow. So that's amazing. So you said that your friend at church basically is the one who told you about the patches, knowing that you were into holistic, natural, non-invasive methods. And so a month and a half to 2 months in is when you started to experience your first back pain relief.
Yes, about 2 months in. And then also I did want to mention too that because I'm in a flight status where I fly, that I can't have over the counter medication and stuff like a um those shots that you get in your spine. The name escapes me. Help me
Yeah.
out here if you.
So basically you're not allowed to take any type of drugs or anything that would put you under the influence of something that could put yourself in a compromising situation or those around you in a compromising situation.
Right, exactly. And then if I was prescribed because it was bad enough that I had to take some medicine, then of course my flight status, I couldn't fly. And because my job involves flying, then I couldn't do my job. So this was something that was very advantageous for that reason.
So yeah, so I'm starting to realize and recognize there's multiple levels of advantage. The first one being the most obvious, where you're repairing and restoring your actual physical body from at a cellular level. Number two, you obviously the pain relief that you're experiencing as things are regenerating and also rejuvenating itself. But then number three, also your livelihood, because your livelihood depends upon your ability to be able to fly every day and do your job without being under the influence of any over-the-counter or prescription drug, and also without the compromise of what it can do to your mental faculties. And then fourthly is that as you're wearing the stem cell activation patches and your body is inevitably vibrating as a direct result of being in the mechanical structure of a helicopter, which is absolutely inevitable, your body is actually repairing and restoring itself on a daily basis, millisecond to millisecond, because now you're actually wearing the stem cell activation patches. So the moment you have any kind of damage, it's immediately already being addressed. Huge takeaway and a huge advantage for you. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, I would wholeheartedly agree. And then two, when I see my buddies dropping like flies because they end up, some of them have the the spine injections to reduce pain. Some have had surgery. Some take the oxycodone. Some just can't fly anymore at all. And for me, I didn't want to get to that point. And then seeing the countless back surgeries that sometimes help, but then over long term are sometimes worse because once you get cut into, you're never the same afterwards.
You're never the same afterwards. Absolutely. I agree with you. Now, one thing that you may or may not be aware of, I actually happen to have been one of the associate producers of a film documentary called Quiet Explosions, Healing the Brain. My background is in neurology. And so we did that film. We premiered it during the pandemic in 2020, late 2020. And one of the things that we revealed and we discovered, we didn't know going into this film about this aspect, but one of the things that we learned was that anytime you go under general anesthetics for surgery, that you suffer a traumatic brain injury. So although you may have a surgery that is a life-saving surgery that's absolutely positively necessary to keep you here and alive, it doesn't come without the consequence of suffering a traumatic brain injury. Now, I've been fortunate enough that now I have patched a good number of anesthesiologists, and we have a fair number of anesthesiologists that are on my personal team, as well as there are people who are actually using the stem cell activation patches for both themselves as well as their sphere of influence in patients. But when you go under general anesthetics, you inevitably suffer a traumatic brain injury as a direct result of them having to lower your vitals. Your heart rate is lowered, your blood pulse is lowered, your pulse ox is lowered. And in order to get you to have your general anesthetics take, then because of that lowering of vitals, you have deprivation of oxygen to the brain, which is what leads to an inevitable traumatic brain injury. Now, the good news is that when you're on stem cell activation patches, you can actually reverse that. So in your case, I don't know if you've had any surgeries, but if you've had any surgeries where you were on general anesthetics, anything that you have done to your body from the time you were prior to birth, actually, from the time you were in your mother's womb until now, any damage, anything that has harmed your body, that bell used to be that we would do things to our body and we'd say, well, you can't unring that bell. It's kind of like when a sound goes out into the universe, everybody hears it. You can't take that back. Except if you're on these stem cell activation patches, we can unring the bell. We can undo any damage that's been done to your body. In this case, you have obviously the vibration from flying, but now anything that you've taken in orally through injections, whether you've absorbed it through your skin, any trauma that you've experienced from accidents or bumps, it doesn't matter what condition it is, we can actually unring the bell because the stem cells that you were conceived with in your mother's womb, 33% of them are now turned on to restore your body to a younger, healthier state.
Mm.
So let me ask you, did you notice an increase? Like some people, the moment I put patches on them, some people immediately feel like a vibration. Some people feel tingling sensation. Some people feel like a warmth. I had one lady that described it. She's like, oh, I feel like this low hum, like wave that's going up and down, but it's like a low hum, like a deep low hum. Everybody feels something different. Some people like myself, I didn't feel anything when I first put the patches on. Did you feel anything when they first put the patches on?
I can't say that I did, and definitely my wife was a great objective opinion too, to note any changes in me that maybe I didn't notice myself, because sometimes I'm a poor historian. and anyway, and as far as observable changes, the only thing that I've seen physically was the accelerated healing of this scar on my right thumb after having that for 10 years. But non-observable changes, I have noticed a few other things if you'd like me to get into that.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and share with our people here the pictures of your before and after about that scar. So tell us, how did you get that scar on your hand that we're about to share here?
So that was from a surgery that I had on my right thumb about 10 years ago now. And they went in and put a plate and some screws because I had a broken thumb bone there. And that scar's been with me for 10 years. And I took a picture in January. I started the patch in November 21st. And this would have been 2 months of wearing the patch by then. And I just thought, well, I better take a picture of this scar to see if I can tell if anything changes. So there in that picture, you'll notice there is some raised portion of the scar, and then there's a little bit of a bump there towards the fingertip. If you zoom in, it's easier to see, but that's January 27th. And then the second picture was a month later, and just in a month, this is after wearing it for 2 months prior for the first picture, and now just a month change in that picture from the before to after. It's very significant.
Yeah, we can see it's a lot smoother, lighter, flat. There's no bumps. The bump that you had before is gone now.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
absolutely.
I think,
Absolutely. And it looked like too, pardon me. Yeah, it looked like too that there was something under the skin too, that now the skin is smooth and there's nothing underneath. And it's almost been another month prior to that after picture or post that after picture. And now the scar looks even better and it's disappearing before my eyes.
that's really exciting. I can attest to that too, because I was hit by a bus almost 6 years ago and I had a scar. I suffered a traumatic brain injury from that. And one of the things that I knew that eventually in time that would be taken care of, but I figured, it'll happen when it happens. And then much to my pleasant surprise, I went from having a purple scar that was much longer and it's shrunk down to, I want to say it went from like 5 or 6 inches to down like maybe 3.5 inches. And now it's flat and the purple color is gone. Still there, but it's much, much lighter. So I know that, I don't know how long it's going to take because the stem cells are working on things that are more pressing probably than that. But I have noticed that that's gotten better as well. So that's very exciting. I also want to address, I know you were talking about in the list of things that you sent me that you were experiencing, you also had knee pain from kneeling. Do you want to talk a little bit more about your knee pain from healing?
Sure. So I do some side job installing drip irrigation and I'm on my knees a lot for that. And then of course just playing with my son and doing dad things. I'm on my knees quite a bit. And seem to favor my right knee. And whenever I do that, period or cumulatively, that I had a little bump that developed that goes away very quickly, but from prolonged use of it, of going down on the same knee, it develops. And now post patch, I haven't even noticed that. And now I can get down on my knees like my 5-year-old son does, and he just plops down and then he gets up like there's nothing going on. And I feel as though that is how the results that I am experiencing right now. Whereas before, I would kneel down and prolonged kneeling definitely gets to you.
Yeah.
And also I am on my knees quite a bit in the job because kneeling in a helicopter and doing the training that we do, that having the reduction in kneeling discomfort is very helpful and very significant for being able to perform at max capacity for the job too.
Wow. So are your knees like completely completely restored now?
Well, I don't notice that when I'm kneeling. I usually, most of the time, I'm using a knee pad, whether it's knee pads or that little styrofoam portable knee pad thing that you use for weeding in your garden. And now I kneel down and I don't realize I'm not using it because I'm not in need of it because the pain that I had before and the discomfort that I had before has not been coming back.
That's fantastic, because one of the things that we have when we use the Fantastic Five, the X39, of course, is the mother stem cell activation patch, but the X49 actually does rebuild muscle and it also increases bone density. So you are experiencing an increase in your bone density, the rebuilding of bones, cartilage, muscle, tissue, tendons, etc., evidenced by the restoration in your knee where it's fine now. It's feeling the way it's supposed to feel, the way it felt when you were, a teenager or in your 20s before anything went wrong with your knees. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Yes.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So I know another one of your symptoms that you had put down on your list, and I'm glad that you sent me this list of things that you were experiencing. I think you mentioned about having these bouts where you would be talking to someone and then unfortunately you would be unpleasantly surprised with the fact that they would tell you that you'd fall asleep in mid-sentence, and you had like extreme sleepiness overcome you at very unexpected moments. You want to talk a little bit about that and that loss of energy and what that whole experience was like and what it's like now?
Sure. I mean, after a long day of work, you're given 100% wherever whatever you're trying to do, and then at the end of the day, there is a loss of energy, at least I had. And then I would be, even at work, sometimes I'd be talking with somebody and mid-sentence, I would be falling asleep on them. I felt so bad, but I mean, it happened and it's very unfortunate. But now, post patching, I can't think of a time when I have fallen asleep on somebody. And then also after a long day at work, getting drowsy while you're driving home is very dangerous. First off, but then not very good at all. And I haven't noticed that either. So at the end of a long day of work, I still feel good to go and I feel energetic and got some in me for finishing up the rest of the day. And then when I'm ready to go to sleep, I go to sleep and wake up ready to go the next day. And there is something to follow up with that too, with along those lines.
Tell me, I'd love to hear more.
Okay. And so since we're talking about energy and sleepiness and now that not being a problem anymore, that whenever you work out and you have an intense workout and sometimes the next day, even 2 or 3 days, you have that delayed onset of muscle soreness is mentioned.
Mhm.
And there was a period where for about 3 months, um, I do a lot of running for my job, running, swimming, and working out. And there was a portion where about 3 months I didn't do any running at all. And if I don't do that for that long length of time, if I get it back into it right away and do it intensely like that, I feel it for the next 3, 4 days. Definitely your legs start feeling rubbery and you have that kind of weakness and tightness and some pain as well, just from your muscles being broken down and getting built back up. So on the patch, 3 months, I hadn't run. And then I started wearing the patch, and then I ended up going on a 6 mile run. And the next 2 days, I didn't feel anything. Like my muscle recovery was almost instantaneous. I mean, and then I tried even go to the gym to do a intense ladder workout. And of course, there was a little bit of soreness afterwards, but the next day I didn't feel the pain from the muscles being broken down and trying to build back up, where it was as if I had gone to work out and I recovered when I went to sleep and I'm ready to go the next day. And that was very significant.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because there's multiple things that are going on that you may or may not be aware. I always look at things from the neurobiochemical perspective and what's going on inside the human body. Because as you know, as you're doing exercise, whether you're working out or you're actually working in your job, which you have a highly intensive, physical demanding job because as of the nature of what it is that you're doing. So what you're talking about is, when you work out and we're using your muscles vigorously, you have something called lactic acid that builds up in your muscles and on your muscles. And as the lactic acid actually pools on top of the muscle, that is what creates the soreness, where the next day, because it's just pooling on top of your muscle, the next day you wake up and you're like, oh, so sore. Now, as a direct result of your being on the stem cell activation patches, of course, your body is head to toe being restored to a younger, healthier state. Just the X39 alone, if you were to just wear the mother stem cell activation patch, and let's eliminate the other patches that you were wearing, that alone increases your glutathione levels 30%. So what glutathione does is that's one of 3 master antioxidants in your body. Glutathione is present in every organ of the body and every muscle of the body, head to toe. So because you're on the stem cell activation patches, you don't have the pooling of lactic acid on your muscles. And when you're wearing the X39 in conjunction with the X49, you also have X49 is the patch that rebuilds muscle, increases bone density, improves your cardiovascular system. So you're having this rapid restore and reparation going on simultaneously as you're working out. You're detoxing your body from lactic acid, because that is glutathione as a detoxifier, master antioxidant. So that is being purged from your body. The body's system of eliminating toxins is through perspiration, sweating. So perspiration, urination, and defecation. So sweat, pee, and poop it out. So you're instantaneously getting rid of those toxins because you have an elevated glutathione level of 30% just with the first patch. And were you wearing the glutathione patch as well?
No, since November 21st, I've only been doing the X39 patch.
X39 patch. So just with the X39 patch, you were realizing all of these results. And so you are having the benefit of having that rapid restore. Also bear in mind that when you do exercise, especially if you're really straining, any kind of exercise where you're doing muscle resistant, cardio, long workouts where you're really running, your legs are really getting a workout, you have micro tears, which is how we build muscle. So you have these micro tears, but in your case, those micro tears are being repaired immediately because you have 33% of your stem cells that are actually replacing and restoring and regenerating new cells and getting rid of the old damaged cells. So you have that benefit. Another side note is that it seems evident to me, but I know a lot of people don't think the way I do, but because you're working in an environment where you're in and out of helicopters all the time, you're in tarmacs, you're on landing strips and so forth, separate from the actual vehicle that you're getting into, as you get in and out of the vehicle, and there are other helicopters and there are other planes and so forth that are around you, you have a lot of chemicals that are coming from the engines, from the exhaust of these vehicles. So you're inhaling a lot of those petrochemicals and alcohols because there's alcohol in a lot of the fuel engines. And so your body is actually being detoxed, and any harm, any damage to any of the cells in, through, and around your body is being replaced and restored simultaneously because you are in fact wearing these stem cell activation patches. Does that make sense?
It does.
So it's something we don't normally think about off the top of our head, but someone like you that's in and out of helicopters, someone who's in and out of planes, a mechanic who's dealing with changing oils and all the chemicals that are natural to repairing cars or what have you, those are environmentals that you're absorbing through your skin, you're inhaling through your nose. And so those are things that affect the body, but now you actually have a system, you have something that is repairing it so that it doesn't harm you in real time.
Absolutely. Very in tune with what you're saying.
Yeah. Is there any else? Have you noticed anything about the quality? Are you sleeping sounder and deeper? Have you noticed any kind of differences perhaps in your sleep patterns, or do you wake up more refreshed? What is your sleep like?
Well, I would say I can't necessarily put my finger on that, so to speak, because prior to the patching, my wife says every time I go to bed and I put my head on the pillow that I'm out in about 1 minute. So I would say I fall asleep very fast prior to it, but definitely the waking up and being ready to go. I'm a morning person, so I can't say specifically if I have observed or have those observable changes. I mean, I'm not going to discount it, but what I do know is that list of improvements that we've kind of gone over that have been most significant.
Fantastic, Aaron. Well, I'm going to share real quickly just what the X39 does, because that was the primary patch that you wore from, when was your start date of being on the patches, if you don't mind my asking?
November 21st, Brent Jocelyn shared that with me, and definitely praising the Lord for his willingness to share something like that. And I'm very encouraged about David Schmidt's mindset and just wanting to be a help to people, and how he gives the Lord credit for being able to have the knowledge to invent something like this. And that's another thing that drew me to this patch as well, just from the history and how he went about it and trying to come up with it. Definitely been a blessing.
Yeah, so I'm just going to show for our viewers here what the Fantastic Five is. That's the first 5 foundational patches. And here Aaron is sharing with us that he was on X39 here. And this is what this X39 patch does. This is a bullet point list. Anyone who's interested can, if Aaron referred you to this video, he'd be more than happy to send you this bullet point list of what this patch does. The mother stem cell activation patch. If somebody else referred you to this video, make sure to get back to them because they can give this information to you too. Take a screenshot of this. You're more than welcome to do that. but this resets a third of your genes to a younger, healthier state. So the moment that you put this patch on your body, boom, your body is the battery, is the energy source that activates the crystal lattice here. Based on the infrared light that your body is emitting, it bounces off of this crystal lattice. It is mirrored back into your body, and GHKCU, which is a copper peptide, is activated into your bloodstream, and instantly 33% of your body is turned on like a Christmas tree with stem cells that were previously dormant, but you were conceived with. It's what formed you in your mother's womb. Now, boom, they are on. And this does repairing cellular damage, restores your collagen, rebuilds your scar tissue, as we saw with Aaron, reduces fine lines and wrinkles. Oh, by the way, fine lines or wrinkles are just evidence of oxidative stress. It's actually damage in the body. This is going to repair that. It's going to increase your energy, increase your sexual libido, antioxidants, anti-aging, anti-inflammation. If you have pain, like Aaron, you'll experience pain relief. The studies show that within 3 to 4 minutes, people experience 50 to 100% pain relief. Some people experience it the moment they put the patch on. Some people take 3 to 6 minutes. Others take 3 to 6 days. Some take 3 to 6 months. Everyone's different. And many people also, there's a lot of reports in the science, as well as the feedback that we get from people wearing the patches, have improved sleep. And a few people like myself have improved hair growth.
That's great.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to share with people? I do want to bring a highlights to what you said about David and how he came up with this technology, because every single time I've heard him speak, whether it's in person or whether it's through one of the monthly webinars that he does for us, he always talks about how this was a divinely inspired technology that was given to him. He starts his every day, he starts it in prayer, he starts in meditation, and he really received a divine download on doing this and then how to do it and how to proceed. And this was 22 years ago that he began with this. And so since then, we started with just the energy enhancer, which I'm wearing here, that the Black Ops Navy SEALs originally, he was hired by the Department of Defense to create the energy enhancer patches so that the Navy Black Ops SEALs wouldn't have to be taking any kind of energy drinks or things that would, at first, yes, boost their energy, but after it wears off, you crash. We can't have any of our military crashing, let alone our Navy SEALs. And so that's when he came up with this, and it was a divine download given to him, exactly what and how to do it. And the rest is history, because since then he has been able to develop it into 12 different stem cell activation patches. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Because I know you touched upon that right before we went over the bullet points.
And talk about, what was it specifically?
Yeah, about how you like the fact that he is coming from a place where, he's divinely connected, and he's acknowledging, he never imposes, obviously, his religious beliefs on anyone, but he does acknowledge the source, that it just came through him, because he's a self-professed, Christian man.
Right. And that for me kind of resonated quite a bit, because the Lord's a big part of my life and helping me along the way. And I definitely am grateful for the blessings that come along the way. And then since Brent was able to share it with me, now I'm able to share this blessing that he was able to be blessed by too. And, just trying to be a blessing in other people's lives. And definitely the part about it could be instantaneous where you have some effects, but then also it may be a lengthy time before you might have some effects. And definitely for me, thinking on that, because it took some time. It took me 40 years to get to where I'm at. And if I'm going to expect something overnight that's going to occur naturally, it's not going to happen overnight. And that was my expectations, where I was willing to give it a little bit of time to do its work, because of course your body is a very intricate working being a machine. There's a lot going on inside you, so there's a lot of things to be taken care of.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we're coming here to a close. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, tapping in, and turning on to 11 Money Secrets TV to learn about activation of your stem cells through stem cell activation patches. We are available in 81 countries. So 81 countries are currently benefiting from this life-saving technology. We dovetail this cutting-edge technology with traditional Chinese medicine by putting these patches on acupuncture points like this. These are other acupuncture points to increase energy. A lot of us will wear the stem cell activation patches on our brainstem, on governing vessel 14, where your brain has the brainstem that goes down into your spinal column, signaling your autonomic nervous system. I'm going to turn around real quick and show you some of the patches that I'm wearing on my brainstem. So if you like what you hear, and maybe you're just wanting information, I'm a very big proponent of education. And so I'd like to give you information and education at the rate and speed that you can consume it, so that you can make an informed choice for yourself and your family as to how to proceed, how to repair and restore your body to a younger, healthier state. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Erin, for sharing your story of before and after of transformation. I wish you and your family well. And maybe 6 months to a year from now, I would love to have you back on again to share with us what other developments there might be and other developments that you're recognizing as a direct result of wearing these stem cell activation patches. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Dame.
All right, you guys take care. And on a footnote, if you want to go to startx39now.com, there's nothing sold on that site. That's purely an educational site. You can go there without, there's no capturing of your information or anything. It's like just think of it as an online storage cabinet with files that are accessible to you. There's a couple 2-minute videos that tell you what the stem cell activation patches are. The second 2-minute video is how it actually works. If you look at the bottom, there's a couple buttons on you're being able to click on them. You're actually going to access all 90 independent research studies and all 120 patents. We actually have 130, but 120 of them are actually posted on that site. And then we have a little video reel with maybe 15 or 20 people with their testimonials. So you can look at that, research it, look at it without any kind of pressure. Of course, on my YouTube channel, we have stem cell activation playlist. We got a couple of them. One's under stem cell, which there are about 15 videos that are much shorter in length. And then you have the stem cell activation playlist where you can binge watch that if you'd like. There's over 122 videos that are posted there. We are here as a resource for you. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, ciao for now, my friends and gems. Thank you, Erin.
All right.